My baby girl. Me and you against the world, let's go. It ain't gonna be easy, I know. When your body language talk, I hear you. I'll never let harm come near you. Always tell daddy how you feel. Forever love you and always will. You got something on your mind we can work through. Cause if you're hurting inside, daddy hurt too. When the world gets rough, I know my daddy loves me so much. You know I love you. Your baby girl. My baby. I know you love your baby girl. My baby girl.
All right. I love my daddy. All right. That was really nice. It's beautiful. I love this song. In the house. Wow, we have a packed house tonight. Welcome one and all to the GoPro Radio's affiliation with Brenda Brown creation and Daddies Matter Too. And I am Tylon Washington. I'm the host, along with my other co-host, who's actually here in the house. This is a very exciting time for us here at the GoPro Radio Networks station. So he's in Studio A. You can see him right now. Dr. Ron is in the house.
Hey,
yes. Oh, it's happening. Yeah. And then we have Kathleen. She's in the house. What's up, Kathleen? Wave to the good people. And Jacqueline already said in the chat that she's at work again listening in, and she says she loves what we're doing here. And then we have Get Down, Brenda Brown. Brenda, you on camera? Or you shy today? Only shy ones. How you doing? Well,
hold on. Okay. I'm over here just talking to myself. And yeah. Hey, everyone. Sorry so much. Hey, Kathleen. Good to see you.
You're muted. Kathleen, yeah, you're muted. Yeah. And Brenda, wow, I love that look. I love that background. Sauced in the city. That's
well, thank you. Yeah, we're upgrading around the studio.
Good.
You know, I love this show. I love meeting up here every week. Hey, Dr. Ron. You in New York?
That's right.
Okay. In the house.
He's in Studio A. Just got in, and we're getting ready to get things started. You know, I was having some technical issues getting in on Facebook Live. I guess I got to put in the feed and the stream and all that other kind of good stuff. But anyway, nonetheless, we are here. We're recording. We're going to get it better as we go, and we're going to jump right into our conversation. I put in a question on Facebook to engage folks, and the question was, are dads treated fairly? I know for some of us that seems like kind of like an obvious answer, but maybe not so obvious, and this is why we can have the conversation. I want to acknowledge the music once again, because when I play it, I like to say it, so hopefully you guys can support. That was Dove South Music featuring Makina saying, I Love My Dad, which I thought was a really nice song. It was a song obviously made, a daughter to her dad and a dad to his daughter, which is really nice. I have daughters and sons, but I like to always give a really special kind of shout out and special care with the daughters. So I thought that was a really great song. Did you hear the song, Kathleen? Did you hear it? Did you hear it? You get an opportunity, Brenda, to check it out?
I did. I actually love the song. That second one, though, was like my favorite.
Yeah.
yeah, I was over here jamming and rocking, and I was like, okay, only 6,000 views, huh?
Yeah, only
Like,
six
we got
thousand
to get
five
that
hundred
up.
twenty-five. Yeah, and it's been out for 2 years. I mean, what did that say? It's such a good song. I really want to give a big shout out to the producers and the writers, Dove South Music. We give them a huge shout out for creating such a great, terrific daddy daughter song. We need more daddy daughter songs. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Ron?
We need all types of daddy songs, daddy daughter songs, and I think that this is one of the things we're talking about a little bit about a little bias. Sometimes we are biased. Daddy, we talk about daddy, but daddies, what we're finding, we need daddies to make songs about their sons.
Yep.
Their sons are the ones who don't have the magic right now.
Right. No, that's good. I'm glad you brought that very, very important point out because there was a song I played before, and it was called "I'm My Daddy's Son," and it was a son actually making a song for his dad. So that was like a little balance. We had one song for dads to daughters, and the first song that I played was a
Right.
song was a son to her dad and a dad to his son. So we kind of had a little balance reflected in the live entertainment coming in. But you are absolutely right. We need more. We are not in danger of having too many songs about
Exactly.
um, about daddies and sons and dads and stuff like that. But anyway, today, just for record, today is July 25th, 2021. It's about 6:15, and we're going to rebroadcast this on our YouTube channel. And when you see this, and if you like it, please subscribe and share. You don't have to do it now. I hate when people say, as soon as you get on their channel, they say, like and share and subscribe, and you don't even know what it is. I'm almost certain, with 99.9% certainty, that once you enjoy and sit back, relax, and matter of fact, get engaged with this show, you're going to want to like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Because one thing is certain, Dr. Ron, when people hear this show, they're going to learn something. You got to learn. It's
Yeah.
going to be, and it's going to be very
And
innovative.
it's just really
And
a good idea. I mean, it's a good idea because I know that I'm a YouTuber, not a YouTube watcher. Let me say that I'm a YouTube watcher, and I hate when something comes on, I miss it. And it was something that could have been live that I could have seen when it was happening. So definitely be able to get the links of when they come on, when things are new, when it's happening. So sounds good. Okay, now we talking. Yeah, no more Barry White. And
Yeah, that was your
don't
voice
watch the
was
man.
low.
Listen, don't watch the man behind me. He wasn't really there. It was
Okay,
just a
that was
figment
like
of
the
your
Wizard of
imagination.
Oz move. Yeah,
Right,
it was like
exactly.
boogity boogity boo. Well, you know what? While you guys are getting that together, I do have a question. And I wrote these things down in my book. I don't ever write nothing down. Okay, so this was like really big for me. Oh, and Lakota says she is coming. Hey Lakota, hey Lulu. And we gonna play Daddy Jeopardy. So a little bit later on, we got the Daddy Jeopardy going, but I do have a question because I was kind of thinking about it at the on the last episode, and I was like, okay, that is kind of cool. And it's kind of like from last show. So the space, area, and room. Remember that? Remember that whole conversation? And then someone threw in consent of fatherhood.
mm,
Now, I have been on the social media airwaves and watching a lot of TV.
mhm,
How do you guys feel about that? The consent of fatherhood. Like, we women, we get consent. We have to either decide, we have the freedom of choice to decide to have a baby or not. When it's
mm.
taken away from the father, do you think, do you think that that's like a growing problem in fatherhood, is that, the choice is being taken away from fathers to be fathers or not?
I, I have a very strong opinion about this, but I'll let someone else go. I don't want to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Y'all
I'm with
heads
you.
about to blow up.
I think
You
I'm
see him,
with you,
Kathleen?
Tylon.
yeah. I have. I have.
Let's see if nobody else has something to say.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. To have something to say. Well, unfortunately, on this panel, you two are the only
Well,
fathers here.
well,
So
I'll get
y'all
it
got to
started
flip
then,
a
Tylon.
coin.
It doesn't matter. Listen, we just let you know that it's gonna be like the Harlem Heat from.
Let's go. Let's get it.
No,
Dr. Ron, you're
no,
up
Ron,
first.
Ron. You know what it's gonna be like? It's gonna be like, yeah, what he said. I already. When it's my turn to say, he said it all.
So the first thing that I'm and Brenda, you bring this up, and I've been walking around with a flag, a banner about this probably for a while, because what has happened is I've seen, especially in my work with a lot of the fathers, you know, when you end up talking to them and saying, hey, why, if you knew you didn't want to have a child, why did you have the child? How did you make this decision? How did that come about? And then they
Right.
say, well, I really didn't make the decision. I didn't, I went to have sexual intercourse, and I probably wasn't. Maybe they didn't use a condom. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they understood it was birth control or whatever. But then they said, they weren't. They maybe have said they didn't want to have a child. They wasn't interested. They wasn't ready. Or sometimes they just don't say anything because they don't know how to communicate that. And they know how to communicate let's get it on, Marvin Gaye, but they don't know how to communicate that. Listen, here's the things that I want and don't want in this getting it on, and what do we need to
Right.
do for that. And so a lot of times that's why I think that, and it is very disheartening because you see men who have somehow, and people, and no one is, let me say this, a lot of times you very rarely, and I'll say this because I've had many discussions when someone says, well, he didn't plan to have, well, he knew he was having sex, so, and that is
Yeah.
the default. The default is, oh, if you didn't want to have a baby, you shouldn't have had sex with that woman. And so all of the onus, all the responsibility of the baby arriving sometime, and I guess and I would say this as a man speaking to other people, men and women, because it's not just women who say this, it's men who say it, that you should have, and you need to own up to the responsibility. And I don't think it's balanced sometimes when they say that if I didn't want to, if that wasn't my true intention, now you're going to say, well, it's my choice, it's my decision. And listen, I respect anybody's choice and decision, but I think also in that aspect, you have to think about somebody other than yourself, because I think that's the key point. Because if I'm going to say, hey, I'm gonna have this child, and I don't care what you say, how you say it, it's not you who's really being affected. It ultimately is the child who's affected.
Okay, I love that, Tylon. Now, just to bounce off, because I know you're just gonna say what he said. You already told me that. So
Mhm.
now we're just gonna go a different route. Because what Dr. Ron said, the choice being taken away even after you've had sex with no kind of birth control, but the woman still retains the ability to have a choice whether to have the baby or not, even after they have not used birth control. So, do you think what should we do about this? Like, do you see the point here? Should the father have the right, even after not using the birth control, to be a father or not to be a father?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I call it, forced parentage. I mean, if you object, there should be a way where the system, the courts, the community, and I really like to defer more to the community because that's who is. I mean, let's be frank. Those are the folks who are mostly impacted. Should have some kind of understanding, some kind of memo of understanding as to if you are going to go ahead and have this child after I don't want to. And we're just assuming right now that let's say there's a young guy, 16, 17 years old, maybe 18, I don't know. And he is not ready. He's not prepared for, having children. And I think Dr. Ron, man, he just said it so right. Like people equate, it's like a fallacy argument. Like to say that, oh, because you had sex, well, then you just should have. Sort of like that argument, if you don't vote, you're responsible for all the problems in the world. It's just those two things don't equate. Two people get together, they have sex. There is the potential for a child to be here. Uh, the the male should talk to the community, talk to his parents, talk to the other person, and say, "Hey, we are not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. If she go ahead with this, this is going to have this kind of impact, and there should be some kind of opt out, whatever kind of situation." That's my feeling on it. I know it's controversial, but it's not fair that on the other hand, a woman can say, a man can say, "I want to have the baby. I want to have the baby." She could be like, "Nope." And guess what? Is That's what it is.
Amen. See, all right. I love those answers. Thank you, fathers, because it's something that's been in my timeline. So I was like, I really don't know because I'm a mom and I do get the privilege of choosing no matter what. So I don't really know what it feels like to have my power of choosing ripped away from me. So thank you for answering my question.
But Brenda, I just as we're saying, I just want to bring an aspect that, and I think that I say this all the time when we're talking and when we're talking about fathers. All fathers are all the same fathers, but their context is different. A married father is completely different than a non-married father, and I say that because if you have a father who's married, and he got married, the idea is that eventually they should have had a conversation about having children. And even sometimes I've seen in sessions where that has been a tension or the issue that has kind of really messed up the family because, they've been married. Maybe the husband is ready, the wife is not ready. The wife is ready, the husband's not ready. And then sometimes you even see them separate based on. And then you see the other thing where the person says, "Well, yes, we're still using condoms," but the man stick a hole in the condom and say, "Oh well," because it's no if you mistake when you're married, it's like, well, the society's gonna look at you and say, "Well, you're married. Why are you upset about having a child? That was you supposed to get married, have a child." But that's really on the individuals and the couple to really make a decision and when they're ready, because again, married or not married, if people are not ready to do something, they're not going to do it that well.
Right.
Boom, there it is. I want to welcome to the screen my sister from another mister, probably the same mister. I don't know. My daddy was,
Ooh.
no, I'm just kidding. Hi, Miss Lakota, looking beautiful. Just sliding in under the gate, are we?
Yes, just got in from a rally for Haiti, so I'm a little tired because it took longer than expected. Didn't start on time because they were waiting for the political figures to come in. But it was really great. It was really great to see.
Yeah, I saw some of it. You were on fire. You had some very important points, and I think I'm gonna share my screen and show some of the folks later on about Lakota doing her public speaking today. She was
I
on
know I
fire at
showed
the
her
rally.
off.
Yeah.
Yes, I was on my show earlier today when I
Hmm.
saw you go live, and I was like, well, you know what? Let me just go over here and A, B, C, D, magic poof. And there's Lakota on my screen. So brilliant job, Mrs.
Can you just tell everybody what's going on, just in case? See, everyone here on this panel, we're in the know, but we're going to rebroadcast this at
Go
another
ahead.
time. And for folks who aren't aware, because you know how fake stream media is, they don't cover our stories like we need them covered. So can you use this opportunity to tell folks what's going on, why you were there, and perhaps what they could do?
So, for those of you who may or may not know, Haiti is in serious crisis again. And this was a result of the July 7th assassination of the president, Juvenel Moise, a father of three, two young men and a daughter, whom was tortured before he was shot a number of times, and his wife tried to shield him, and she was injured. Luckily, she survived. She's at an undisclosed location, for her safety. And so what's been happening is members of the Haitian community have been trying to build awareness as to what's happening in Haiti in the form of doing these, rallies around the city. This particular rally was held by this organization called Little Haiti BK, which Mr. Washington, you'll be getting a call from the director of that organization, because I told him about your show and he wants to come and speak on his platform. So this was really pretty much a rally, again, to just call attention to what's happening in Haiti, and really for the first time in a very long time, speak to the Haitian Americans who are in this community whom are not utilizing their resources and their skills to, for the betterment of their country. We have a habit of relying on this government to help Haiti. And that has not worked, since I can't even, since
time immemorial.
And so now the push is for organizers, for people in the medical field, law enforcement field, and in education to kind of galvanize to see how we can put boots to the ground to help Haiti. And so it was really, really jarring for me to go there and see, first of all, I did not even know that there were so many Haitian Americans in the state and local government. Had no idea whatsoever. So that just blew me away. Assembly people, judges who sit on the Judiciary Court. One of Al Sharpton's deputy directors is Haitian. Had no idea, that we have this many influential, whether you're in the political field or just in government, level of Haitian Americans. And for me, what was bugging me out is like, so what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing for your country that's literally 3.5, 4 hours away by plane? Just to give you context of Haiti. And so we're hoping that more programs like this crops up, with the central theme being, okay, you're in law enforcement. How can you help in Haiti? Because Haiti's law enforcement needs a total overhaul. You are a doctor. What's happening? Yes, the COVID virus has a pretty big stronghold on Haiti, but guess what? So does cholera. A disease that we don't even talk about here because it's so like third worldish to even conceive that in 2021, you do have COVID, but you have cholera. There's people still living in tents from the 2010 earthquake. The infrastructure is just bad. It's just really, really bad. So that's why, and I don't normally do rallies and protests. I was asked to do this on Friday. I was asked to speak, and it was under the umbrella of like the Catholic Church. And those who know me know that I am not a church, religious, or God person at all. And so I made it clear that whatever I speak to is not going to be it's not going to be about a prayer vigil. Because I've always said that if it was about prayer, Haiti would have been a superpower. So for now what needs to happen is real tangible action to build this country's infrastructure, but not have to freaking rely on the United States or France, to which, Haiti's been France's bitch for as long as I can remember. And so it's trying to move away from, Canada, from the United States, from France, so that we as Haitian Americans who have sucked in and taken in all of the education that this country, is willing to give, to now try to pay it forward, to that country that's in need of all that we have incurred, from white man's education. So that's pretty much, what's been happening.
Lakota, I just want to echo exactly what you said. I was having a conversation with some colleagues of mine, and our conversation turned to Haiti, all in the mental health field. And the main brother in our community, the challenge came, and the challenge came from the group because everyone's from different places, and Dominican Republic, America. And I said that why is it? And because of what you just said, there's so many people that you don't know that are Haitian Americans. There are so many powerful places. Why can't the Haitian Americans in America call together a conclave and make a decision on what they're going to do to go back? The reverse of the brain drain that happens to most Caribbean countries, the brain drain that comes to just make a conclave. And I mean, that's me talking as an American who doesn't know. And he explained, he educated me that is the bourgeoisie, and then there's the people that are, in the lower class, and that you would have to fight between the two of them and who would trust who. And I said, yeah, that's cool. But if you came there and came with a action plan that would do something, you have developed the resources in this country to be able to go back and put who you think and how it should be, instead of letting another person who doesn't have any connection to Haiti. At least you still have a connection. You have your heritage there. You have your family. Everybody I know who of Haiti say, I got cousins that's still in Haiti, so I got to send some stuff. So you're talking about helping in a way that you have a resource, is just you're doing the uplift to give back to your country. And I heard him, but I was uncomfortable, and I challenged him. I said, I know if I was from Haiti, I would be trying to figure out how I could put together a conclave. I know that people might not like it. I know somebody could try to kill me. I know all these things could happen, but it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. Right. Just like this didn't come overnight. But if we start having the people and the power to go there, you would see it, and we could change those families. And again, I put that power to him because he's a father of kids. And I think that you say you want to be you're the man, you're the leader, listen, take that mantle and lead this, and find the other fathers that you sit around and watch the football games with you. You drink the nice fancy wine and the beer, and y'all have that conversation about how you can do that. But I know it's a struggle. I mean, it's easier said than done, but it needs to be thought about being done.
Well, I think if I can chime in a little bit, I think what we see happening in Haiti has happened before. And if we forget history, we're doomed to repeat our past. There are real barriers to keeping Haiti poor by design. Who are the designers? White supremacy. We're talking about the imperialist control that needs Haiti to be as dysfunctional as possible. Haitians had to pay the French. They should get all that money back. There should be a huge push to get back their resources. As a matter of fact, I would go even further, right? I'm not Haitian, but this is just common sense. If you just left the Haitians alone, they would thrive. There are real impediments. These are intelligent, courageous, innovative, bold people who are under attack constantly. It's sort of like, when we talk about Cuba and the Cubans and the people uprising, they're uprising because there's been an embargo for literally, decades. And when you keep people poor by design, you're going to have the kind of challenges that you see in Haiti. I want to get your feedback on that, Lakota. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree. I totally believe that this is, Haiti's current status is definitely by design. I'm a big fan of reparations, and I have to say that I'm new in learning about the power of reparations. And for the last year or so, I've been, learning about it, because I used to hear it, and I'll be the first to admit to be like, oh, reparations, people making excuses. But then when I think about it, especially when I found out like the Jews had gotten reparations, the Japanese had gotten reparations,
and still getting reparations, by the way. The Jews are still getting reparations.
And the Germans were getting reparations. I'm like, oh, okay. Right. There's something very, very wrong about this narrative.
Right.
When people who were kidnapped from their country of origin and sent and brought here to toil through slavery, then like Reconstruction, then Jim Crow and the civil and nothing.
Right.
And then and I get it. People love to give accolades to Haiti because Haiti was the first republic. Slave revolt successful. That's all good and dandy. But for me, good is that when to me, guns has no power when it comes to economics. He who has the money has the power. And if you are funneling all of your resources to pay a country and then incurring debt because other countries are helping you pay that country, so now you're indebted to that country, how realistic can we actually say Haiti is free?
And we have Kelynne here, and I'm looking at her comment. She just educated me and said they are still paying. Like, Haiti is still paying the French? That's crazy to me.
That's this is Kelynne. That's figuratively, not literally. But if you
okay, all right. Oh, because I must say this.
Oh, I mean, if I read recently in one of these Haitian diaspora books that I kind of delve into way before, may he rest in peace, President Jovenel was murdered. That if you calculate the amount Haiti paid over time to the French, you come up with something like $21 billion. And so as we talk about reparations, so some of the push from folks who are seeing it in that light is that France return that money.
With interest.
That money with interest, yes. Will it be? Who knows? I mean, I hear you guys talking and I hear the whole idea behind, keeping them poor by design, the bourgeois. And I want to chime in on the bourgeois because I spent a lot of time going to Haiti, and I had to stop recently because of, the current state and the insecurities in Haiti. But Dan and I travel to Haiti quite a couple of times a year, and I do a lot of work in Haiti in the nursing schools in Haiti. And but I mean, you come into
can you for our audience just tell folks who you are, because we know who you are, but this is going to be rebroadcast. So just let's start there and then push forward.
I'm sorry. My name is I'm kind of not all looking my 100% best, but my name is Kelynne Oristel. I am the president of the Haitian American Nurses Association of Greater New York. And we are an organization that is 10 years old. We started in 2010 after the earthquake in Haiti by showing our presence and our force on the ground, assisting during the earthquake with recovery and trying to prevent, grave disability. Right. So after returning from Haiti, we then decided to form an organization rooted in community service, both global, under, a big umbrella, both global and local. So that's HANA. There are 11 chapters of HANA, Haitian American Nurses Association, across nationwide. And we fall under this one umbrella called HANA International. That's the Haitian American Alliance Nurses Incorporated. And it is the international chapter right now that's really I want to say virtually on the ground in Haiti. Really, we were at the table before the death of the president, the murder of the president, I should say, looking at the Constitution. And so the Constitution, the way it's written, the Haitian Constitution, I mean, you wonder about it. And, our hands are tied. If you look at the many devices that were built in the Constitution, really to keep the Haitian people down. And so that is one of the things that Jovenel Moise, president, was working towards. And, you know, his life was taken. He was murdered for, you know, trying to, I mean, there's some frame of thought and people, you know, have their own ideas. But at the end of the day, he played the game to get in the seat. And when he got in the seat, though he agreed to do certain things, I mean, in his mind, he thought he can change the world by himself. And unfortunately, he was trying to do all these things literally by himself. And unfortunately for him, even with advice of others to name names, he didn't name names. And I think he was getting very close to naming names. And then, you know, they silenced him. They shut him up for good. So, I mean, Haiti, you hear dual citizenship. You talk about the bourgeois, they are not of true Haitian descent. These are Syrians who those 5% that are running the country are not even Haitian natives, believe it or not. And they control everything, even down to the political elections. But again, this is all politics. It's a sad time for our country. And I was just in another show probably about half an hour ago. And the host said, in our culture, when someone dies or someone is murdered or killed, we are very, very dramatic mourners. Like we throw ourselves on the ground, we scream, we yell. That didn't happen. I don't see that yet. I mean, and I want to kind of try to speak English, but because there's some words that you say in Creole, like brancher means to branch out and hear what's happening on the ground. And I'm a person who branches, so I kind of know things that are happening in Haiti because, roots connection, etc. And those things are not happening. And this is a significant loss. So, I mean, I hear the conversation. I am hopeful, but it's not something. There was a gentleman who was speaking. These are changes that will happen, but one person can't make them happen. And the power, I think, will come from those who are, it is the people of the nation who are living the reality, who have to take steps towards the change. And what is how can we get to the change? Unfortunately, the change might take a revolution.
That's what's up. You know, and I tell people that all the time that, you know, we have to get way more aggressive. Our posture, everything has to be very different and innovative because people are prepared and ready when you have this sort of vertical movement. And I'm frustrated with that model that I see constantly. This idea of this charismatic singular leader who can be silenced or corrupted. And that's why if we have a horizontal movement, those movements are a lot more challenging for the enemy to intercept and to destroy. Because now it's like with this brother's loss, it's like, what's in his place? Because they do divide and conquer so well. They've been doing it for years, and it's an effective tool. And it seems like we're the only ones not learning. We've been the victims of this for hundreds of years. Black and brown people all over the world, globally oppressed by white supremacy and imperialists and transnational organizations, literally milking the company or the countries for all of its resources and giving nothing back in return. So I think if you're around people who are planning and talking about doing the same old things, that's insanity. You have to have a revolutionary posture. You have to do things that are different. Or else you're going to just get more of the same. They are constantly applying Band-Aids to gunshot wounds to the head. Guys leaking, his eyes are rolling up in their head, and they say, well, yeah, hey, take a Band-Aid. And put some Robitussin on it. None of these things work. It's a lot of good lip service because it's in the news right now. But as soon as the news walks away, so does everyone's energy. So that's why I said we need to think more horizontal and revolutionary. That's the only way to succeed with what's, not only happening, but what's unfortunately to come. What are your thoughts, Dr. Ron?
Well, I just want, I know we're going to be talking about the bias or the the narrative of the negative father or services or not. And I just equate that to this situation. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we always like look at things that they're, again, I talk about this always talk about in the micro, but I say look at the macro, how these things are interconnected, and and how it affects the narrative. The narrative that we love is that Haiti and the Haitian people did the revolution, right? They did their revolt. They took over the country, and they said, "Oh yeah, let them do it." But I think that people forget that also English left the Caribbean countries. They just left those Caribbean countries, and that the narrative that they give is they won't be able to prosper without us. And if they feel like they can prosper without it, we need to do whatever we can to make sure they don't. And people think that that sounds like conspiracy theories, that someone
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't do that. But listen, if you work every day at a job, you know that someone is sabotaging your success at the job because they don't think you can do it, or they don't want you to do it, or they're looking at those things. So we have to sometimes, we look at a lot of things, but let's step back a moment and look at, there are some narratives that are being displayed and pushed to continue this type of dysfunction, and to make you think that, oh, the Haitian people can't ever get it together. Haitian people overall
Right.
means black people can't get it together.
Right.
So it's not as simple as we want to make it seem sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very complex, and it goes into this idea that, oh, there's a boogeyman somewhere. I think about that the movie Black, I forget his name. He was they was looking to get them, find the man, and who was the man who was making everything happen. But the reality is, we sometimes take that for a joke, as that's not real, but it is very real.
Right.
And until we start as all understanding that there is a boogeyman who is trying to set a narrative for us as a people, then we won't ever get it. Because the first time I've been with a friend, I was here in a meeting to talk about Black Lives Matter, and the first thing person say, well, what about the lives of the people killing black people in the community? Don't those lives matter? What about? And that's the kind of narrative you're talking about. You're asking for one thing, and they're throwing this narrative to say, oh, y'all do the same thing. You're bad. You're not good. You're not structured. You don't have your stuff together. And a lot of times, at the same time, bringing guns into those communities and dropping them.
Right. And I want to say too, to the whole idea of conspiracies, because I get that all the time. Oh, you believe in conspiracy. It's irrelevant whether or not there is some guy with a tall black hat and a curly mustache and and he's twirling them, conspiring. This is just, to some extent, a convergence of interests. And when these interests converge, you get this sort of inertia that produces the kind of, money, and that old money comes first, and they install governments. There's a very good book that I would urge everybody here on the panel to get. John Perkins did Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and actually did all the work for us, so that we don't have to do all this research. It's all in here. It's verified, and talks about how they go into all of these black and brown countries with a suitcase full of money and say, hey, you want to live rich, and you let us do what we got to do, or die, or the jackals will come. This is something that's been, we see it. There's a show right now on Netflix about how to make a tyrant.
How to make a tyrant.
Yeah. And so you see, they're telling you, this is what we do, this is what we've been doing, and our responses are the same responses from the 60s and 50s. No wonder. We have to be innovative, right? We have to forget about this vertical movement where it's just one person and he has all the control and power, because they can corrupt him. It's sort of like people who had this unrealistic expectation of Obama. Because I hate how we look at America like, oh, we got our stuff together, right? But Obama, I would say, not only he didn't do anything for black people, he couldn't. That should be an indicator of how entrenched racism is. He had to give us a wink and a nod. But guess what? When the Asians were getting attacked, there's legislation right now that protects Asian people, the gay community, women, LGBTQ. Meanwhile, black men are choked out summarily and before everybody, shot in their backs. There's nothing that says black people. So before we get on our high horse here in this country, talking about how better it is, it's relative. It's relative to who controls the microphone. And that's why, at Daddies Matters Too, we try to encourage, because I'm telling you, it's this male energy that's kind of weird right now, particularly and especially in this country, where as soon as you assert a certain level of masculine, we talked about this a little bit, it becomes toxic. And I think if you're going to really change anything globally, one of the reasons why they can push things around is because they remove the male energy. Once you remove that male energy, your children are vulnerable and the women are vulnerable. And that's what's happening here. Before we get all cute and think, oh, that's just a Haitian thing. It happens here. And it's happening in Haiti. It's happening all across Africa. It's happening everywhere. And it's by design. So it doesn't have to be Mr. McFlaurin and his, Illuminati, the Knights Templars and all this other mystical stuff. And that there's people who are greedy and they're living their best lives based on our misery.
You making me laugh. One thing I think
that's
about
what it is.
What's the second season of, if they gonna make a second season of How to Make a Tyrant, because I was just, as I watched that, and I obviously watched it too.
Yeah.
You seen some things and saying, okay, so they talked about a lot of different countries. Look like America gonna be gonna have to be in season 2. How to Make a Tyrant.
We should have been in one.
I'm just leaving that alone. That just, because it kind of the way they played it out.
Yes, I'm like, look at this.
Do that. Look, you kind of had to, from 2008. If they can make a playbook on How to Make a Tyrant 2008 to now. So I just
and it was so clever how they omitted America's hand with Hitler. All these people, Gaddafi, America wasn't mentioned. It was like these were like they mentioned the English though when it came to Idi Amin. They did say he started out as a soldier with the English and stuff. That's where he learned all his torture tricks. That's where these people learn how to be indifferent to their own kith and kin. So this is what you have to be mindful of. Not everybody that's skin folk or your kinfolk, and they are. And this is it's interconnected, Dr. Ron, with, and I don't know how you survive the theft of our intellectuals. We have some of the most brilliant and brightest minds, and they go into these institutions and they come back. They don't eat like us. They don't drink like us. They don't think like us. And we just are mesmerized by their black skin.
Tylon, they do, but they are done what is the best thing to do. And I think this all the time. They're bought. Listen, I'm going to make you closer to us. I'm going to give you the money and give you the status to be closer to us, so you can no longer talk about these issues that affect.
That's right.
Your own community and the people that look like you. And it's very hard, because once you start eating, caviar and taking private jets, you get used to that. It's very hard to have to catch the 2 train from Brooklyn all the way up when you got a private car to drive you the fast way all the way up here to the Bronx. So
Lakota is right. She's 100% when she talks about the petty bourgeoisie, when she talks about this issue of class as it's connected to the oppression. No one is willing today to go hungry, to sacrifice, to starve, to fight, because they'll fight when it's on the internet. We got a lot of wevolutionaries. They get on the web and click, delete, and free Haiti now and all this other guy. We got a lot of people who will do certain things. They'll protest, they'll go out in the street, they'll go to a rally. But if they have to sacrifice, give up some money, give up some bread, do some things and be a little bit more uncomfortable, invite maybe strangers into their own home, that's when you get the, I've come to the conclusion that for things really to get changed, we have to be a way more uncomfortable. We're too comfortable. Comfort corruptness is the problem with revolution, because you think you have an iPad or a cell phone or a house or 2 homes or a car or this, that, and the other. Somebody can always knock on your door and say, hey, you got this good job. You want to keep it? You got this other stuff going on. You want to maintain it, or you want to do this, that, and the other. And a lot of people are not willing to, make those sacrifices and say, hey, it's sort of like what Ron does. So even with me, I make a lot of sacrifices to do. I do my own thing. I have my own studio, have my own, and it's a struggle. When I say a struggle, you have no idea. Like I'm talking about rent, not being big, worried about. It's real, but these are the choices I consciously make instead of saying, do I want to sell out? I got an offer to work for another company. No. Netflix is in Brooklyn now. You can get this. No, because I know if I do that, I will have to acquiesce to who's cutting the check. It's simple. You know, it costs to be the boss, right? If you're the boss, you're cutting the check, you make the rules. So the only security that I could ever have is a security that I make for myself, which means I got to go hungry. I got to build my own community. And that's what we're doing here at Daddies Matter Too. That's why they can't censor us, because we can say what we want, because we don't have to worry about the Dove commercial. We don't have to worry about a car commercial. We can say what we want. All we have to do is really worry about Brenda Brown.
and if people want a real live version, Colin Kaepernick was it. Listen, if you don't have any other example to show you true, Colin Kaepernick not in the NFL right now today.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't want to be in the NFL. I doubt that, but you can be sure the second he stood on that plateau and took that mantle, he ruined what there was no coming back. Now there's people who did all kinds of stuff in between time. They beat their wife, they kill their wife, they beat the kids. They still in the league. They still play football. They still get millions of dollars, and they still highlight them as heroes, or the heroes of the country. Right. This man stood up to say, until the country stops treating black people a certain way, I'm not going to stand up and put my hand over my heart for the Pledge of Allegiance. And he lost everything. He lost. Well, he didn't lose everything. He actually gained. Right. But he lost all of their stuff, all the stuff they had for him. Right. And so that's a perfect example. And a lot of people are not willing to give it. A lot of people are not willing to do that. I mean, they're not willing to do it because you think that these things are important. Right. Until the bewitching hour. There comes a time in our life when we get to the end and we have to, flash all the things that are great in our life.
And I thought of this too. That's very important for everybody to keep in mind. I'm talking specifically to the bourgeoisie or the people who are selling out or continue to sell out. Keep in mind that the elite, they break their toys. You're a toy. And when they get finished with it, just think of Bill Cosby. Think of all the other folks who thought they had it made. And they said something they weren't supposed to say. They did something they weren't supposed to do. And who wants to be somebody's boy or mammy for the rest of their lives? As long as you keep saying what they want you to say, and then even if you say what they tell you, read the script. They just don't like you. You said something, and guess what? All of a sudden, these scandals will come up. All of a sudden,
But it goes back into the other thing. It ruins your character. Your character is at that point of you were standing on one thing, you come back, you apologize. At that point, a regular everyday person like myself, I no longer will listen to anything you got to say because I feel like either you've been bought or you really didn't believe what you said the first time, or how do I know you believe what you're saying now? And so you lose some character. You lose a lot of your character.
And can I bring this home? I think Lakota and Kay, they can lay the way that they view the world and much of their success to their fathers. Because remember, this is Daddies Matter Too. And I know that they had a dope ass dad. You could just tell. You can tell women who've had fathers that were engaged in their lives versus those that did not. I know I'm going to get a lot of stuff. It's going to be a lot of mail. My mother, and that's fine. We're going to talk about it. I think that's an important conversation to have, that when you have that male energy in your life, you have balance, period. So, and just bring the mail. We'll talk about it. Like I said, I won't censor. I'm not just going to talk about all the pretty emails and comments we got on Daddies Matter Too. We're going to discuss some of the things that you disagree, and then we can talk it out as a family, because that's what real men do. We talk it out. We say we agree to disagree, but here's our energy and here's our ideas.
Oh
Sorry to
my
cut
God, this
you.
second half is
Well,
going
sorry.
to be.
I just wanted to say, I think when you strip it all down, I think that is the biggest tragedy of the assassination of
Exactly.
Moise, is
Exactly.
that, you know, aside from a political figure being taken down, and whether or not you agreed with his policies, a father was brutally in your face taken away from.
Right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Kate. He had 3 kids, right?
Oh, we can't hear.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, he had 3 kids.
Yeah.
3 kids, a girl and Jovenel Moise, the junior, and then Jovenel, yeah, and then the girl, yeah. So he had 3.
Yeah, so I think for me, I think that's, you know, just kind of tying it in with Daddies Matter Too. A daddy was, you know, taken away, you know, and from what I gathered, a very involved father, a devoted, you know, husband whose wife now has to almost take on that masculine energy, you know, to be able to kind of now navigate her trauma, her children's trauma, and the trauma of a country on her shoulders. You know, and this is something that is going to stay with her forever, because again, she was there. She tried to shield him from getting killed. And so, you know, a dad was taken away. You know, and I think that's something that we definitely want to bear in mind, because before he was president, he was a father and husband first.
And this is what we don't get, to me, that's so frustrating for me personally. And is that, you know, this fathers that are laying in the street, you know, when they are killed by whether the cops or another brother killing another brother, I think we forget that aspect of it in that rage, in that heated moment, that this is a man who's connected to so many other people, and he's perhaps a provider. So when you gun this brother down in the street, that you're removing all the possibilities of a tomorrow. It's so permanent. It's so you know. I wish we had more fight clubs in boxing, because you can come back from a good fight. When I grew up, I had a lot of fights, and then some of the people I fought, we became friends. Some of them we didn't, but at least there was another day. They didn't do anything to me where I'm not here to talk to you and you're not here to talk to me. Now with these guns and these, in an instant, and I don't know if you're Ron out here in the Bronx, maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, it's this guy, he's around these kids and the guy's shooting like over the kids to shoot this other human being. What is going on? And I'm telling you, this is happening because the dads, that male energy in the community that you said, that was unconscionable when I was growing up, shooting around kids. You can have your gun ready to get a gun, and you see an old lady, you're like, good morning, ma'am. You know, you see children not near schools now. It's like it's in the schools, it's in the hallways of schools, in front of the school, around the school, it's in churches, and the violence just persists in this way. And it's because daddies have to matter again, because we're seeing what is lost when you remove that person. And I want to connect it to one thing, and Ron, and I got to bring up people like Terrence Rice. Yes, I'm doing this film called Disappearing of Freedom, the Decline of Justice. A lot of our daddies, a lot of our men are languishing in prison, who are actually and factually innocent.
That's exactly where I was about to go.
Okay.
Because one of the things that exactly what you're saying is, people talk so much about the violence of how the gangs are violent and what happens and how that's where the violence is. But if you know what the narrative was that occurred that made that happen, is the governments knew to take away the leaders, take away the father figure, the person, the ones who made the rules of what's on Sunday. Don't happen. You do not shoot women and children. If something's going to happen, these things. We were initially there to protect our community, our property. But once you took those people away, just like anything, you chop the head off of a snake, the snake goes wild, goes crazy everywhere, and you have the whole land is messed up and bloody everywhere. And I think that's what ends up, that's one of those things you're taking away. And I think that's just a narrative that is very strong in this country. Take the fathers away, take the ones who can control the younger males, because younger males are males and they're still going to have this energy. If you take the person who can control them and who can rationalize with them, who can also share their experience based on their being men or being males, then you can actually destroy whatever you want to destroy, because listen, you can influence them and tell them that this is what it should be to be a man with whatever media, music, other things, because they don't have the actual live person. Because the mother can say, this is what I think, this is what your dad was, this is how I think you're gonna be, this is how I think you should do. But the media is going to have a stronger influence, because how do you get in touch with a dad? How do you make that connection?
Right. And thank you for that, because I have to give voice to those brothers who are incarcerated, who don't have a voice, don't have rights, and living in some of the most degrading conditions any human being can be in, and they're innocent. So I just want to. Oh, okay. Kay has her hand raised.
Yes. So I just want to just kind of chime in a bit, especially when I'm hearing the woman, the moms. I, as a single mom for many, many years, I pride myself on what I was able to achieve with my boys, even though all but one is, connected to a dad, and you can see the difference. When I was told, "Oh, don't worry about it, you got this," I would, even at a very, very young age, say, I don't have the skills to teach my young men how to be a man, because I'm not a father. And this doesn't mean, mothers do a great job, of trying to fill that gap. But you as a mom cannot be the dad. I mean, it's unfortunate, but these are, and probably people are going to be like, oh, what is she talking about? Society has somehow have us believe, brown and black folks, that mom, you can make it. They don't need a dad. So I kind of, I'm going to lean on, on the side of, yes, they're stripping our communities of these young black men. They don't see examples of themselves because they're locked up, or some moms purposefully keep their kids away from the dad for their own selfish reasons.
Right.
And so there is some importance for me to, resound that we need father figures. We need, as a married woman, I need my husband who didn't have a father. I see the difference. And I was having a conversation with Lakota earlier today, which prompted me to join. I said, let me just chime in and hear what you guys are talking about. Because I said to Lakota, I said, there's some things that Dan does as a husband. I'm sure if he grew up the way I grew up, with a dad in the house, a useful dad, because there's some dads here in the house who are just, that's another discussion, who don't serve that role and purpose. Let's keep it real. But as having a dad, a useful father, and a family unit, I feel like if he had that experience, he would see things a little differently, because he had a role model. And so there is something to be said about that absence and how much a mom can fill that void.
Yeah.
So I just felt like I needed to say that. I have an older one who and anybody who knows me knows he resents me because he doesn't have he never built a relationship with his father, his biological dad. And of course, at the time now, the dad would like to have built a relationship with him. He's no longer interested. because now he's a grown man. You know what I mean? So they're the connection. You know, there's something to be said about moms trying their best. We do what we can, but there are some critical elements. I cannot show you how to be a man. I can tell you, I can lead you to the water. I can tell you, you know, this is right, this is wrong, but there are some critical elements. It's not built in my DNA.
Well, I want to thank you for that truth, because what you just said is not popular right now, you know, in the space of the Me Too movement, in the space of, you know, male toxicity and everything triggers, you know, but this is what I'm talking about. These are the kinds of things that we have to sacrifice. We have to sacrifice not being popular or not going along with what has been made popular. Because I think it's a difference. Because I think the truth is the truth, right? Certain things will resonate to people, but at the same time, the media is so powerful. It's like Malcolm X said, it can make your enemies your friend, your friends your enemy. Like, it's just one of these kinds of weird times that we're in. And speaking truth to power right now can get you canceled, get you fired, get you in trouble, get you, you know, so people who are up on this forum, who are able to speak freely, and this is what this whole space is about, right? This is a kind of judgment-free kind of, you know, safe space for us to really talk as a family and hear those things about your experiences as a mom and how your kids are responding to not, you know, being connected to that male energy. I want to read a couple of comments, and I want to hear from all of you. I want to, Kathleen looks like she wrote, matter of fact, Jacqueline Banner said to, in the chat, this is so powerful, exclamation point. We need to hear these brothers more, sisters too. And Kathleen says, a lot of the times, these single moms, some I'm aware of, fulfill the statement, it takes a village to raise a child. Single parents tend to rely on elders and grandparents to fill the role of the actual dad. Here on that, Kathleen. Thank you. Thank you for that comment.
It's interesting because I remember watching it. I'm not a big fan of Iyanla Vanzant for other reasons. But I remember her saying something that was really profound when she was talking to, it was a couple, and they were having issues with their sons. And you can tell, you know, that the father was not like, he was not the alpha in the relationship. And then
that's another show.
Yeah, and then I remember, you know, Iyanla trying to like reach the dad, like just trying to shake him into some sort of reality. And she looked at him and said, you know what? You have let society, media think that she, pointing to the woman, think that she's the man. You know, you let people think that she wears the pants in the family. She said, you have forfeited your throne to the queen, who now is holding the double crown. And when she said that, I thought that was very profound, because on so many levels, it's like, she's absolutely right. You know, society has, for the most part, really, by social construct, forfeited the idea that, you know, of the father being the head of the household. You know, if you say that, you know,
or even in the household,
the king, everyone, like they just freak out. But the reality of it is, when she said that, I was like, you know what? She's absolutely right. You know, she was like, you may not have told her, but you gave her permission to take your drawers. And I was like, wow, you know, it was really profound. And the way, you know, society has constructed the views of, you know, roles, because now there's really, the whole idea of roles is out the window. You know, and a lot of that, and people don't want to admit it, a lot of that has to do with the gay rights movement. But the moment the gay rights movement became a civil rights movement, the whole idea of roles came out the window. But 20 years ago, we weren't talking about he, she, them, theirs. We weren't talking about that. You know, 15 years ago, we were not adding extra alphabets, you know, to a subgroup. And you know, the reality of it is the moment that that movement came up to the forefront, it started to now deconstruct roles. It started to deconstruct roles. That primarily of male and female, ergo father, mother, ergo black family. Because the only people that who I feel that are truly impacted by that, it trickles right down to, you know, the black family.
Go ahead, Ron.
I just wanted to let her land because she landed the plane right where I wanted to say, hey, hold on, put some of this on your flight.
Yeah.
Because I was just gonna say is that, and this is very strategic that we have to be very mindful to do. In the media, they will say things like men, right? But in North Dakota, in Iowa, in Arizona, those men are not the men they're talking about. Those men run their house, and their women follow them. You see it when you check the statistics of how they vote. If the father of the house votes away, everybody else has vote. If the father goes to the church, it's just like, and people who are what we would consider, I'm not gonna say minorities, but underserved. The underserved population, what happens to them is that they all get lumped in together. So a LGBT issue becomes a black family issue. And how is that? That is not the same thing, because that doesn't fit for us. That doesn't happen in the same sense. It's a family issue, but it's not the same. But if you lump it all together, say, these are the others, because it's called the othering. The othering from us, the core family, and who the
and
core
Ron,
family.
I don't know if you remembered, I'm thinking this was probably last year. It was kind of sort of big news in social media when Dwayne Wade's then son decided that he was going to transition to a she. And it's sad that this society has become a society where you really can't say what you feel for fear of being vilified. And then the rapper, I don't remember the rapper's name. What's the name of the rapper? Boosie. Okay, Lulu said Boosie. That's the name of the rapper's name. And he basically came out and said, you know what? And I think his child at the time was 12. Mm-hmm. And, you know, his argument was like, look, child's a 12-year-old. What does a child know about having a sex change and this and this and this? And and where was, you know, Dwayne Wade as the father? Like, where was his influence? And you know, he should have said something. And I'm not talking about, you know, if he was 18, 19 and gay, whatever. He was like, but, you know, he's a 12-year-old, and where was the real father? That rapper was vilified beyond belief. I don't even think you hear from him anymore.
Oh, you still hear him? He's still good in the streets, because he can say whatever. He's a street person, so he can.
Oh, okay, all right.
But that got him a lot of attention.
Flack.
But he already got a whole bunch of negative attention, so he loves that. But to what you're saying, I think that one of the things when that came up, I know that people were scared to touch on it, but Ricky Smiley, I really appreciated when Ricky Smiley has said, because the issue was about that Zion wanted to wear halter top, or he wanted she wanted to wear a certain outfit. Zion wanted to wear a certain outfit, and then Ricky Smiley made a very good point as a father, because Ricky Smiley is considered himself the father of fathers. He fathers everybody. He fathers his own kid. He said that, but if that was your daughter, who was 12 years old and she wanted to wear halter top, would you let her? So why is this okay for why are you pushing that on to allow Zion to do that when it's just not appropriate? We're not talking about taking away anybody's identification or whatever they have concluded to, you know, what they want to be. Right. But think about what you're putting in mind, because if you had a daughter, you wouldn't be letting her wear a halter top. So why would you let your trans child do it? Why would that happen? And so sometimes we have to argue things that make sense, that doesn't become an excuse to say you're homophobic. Transphobic. So start using the rational thing. And I thought that was ingenious, the most ingenious thing, because as I thought about it, my 7-year-old daughter, I wouldn't want her to be wearing a halter top at all. Nowhere. I don't want her to wear them little shorts that she had. I want her to get, you know, go put something else on. But you know, these are the kind of things that happens to us, and it gets mixed up in and it gets mixed up in the sauce, and then we end up saying, "Oh, this is what," and it looks like we're advocating for things that ultimately is hurting us.
And actually, what it does, it's designed to intentionally silence our voices, and I mean us in this room. We're not supposed to talk about this because we'll be labeled as homophobic or homo bashing or LGBTQ not support. First of all, we love all our brothers and sisters. I'll say that, and I'm confident that we all. And I think that this is a space where we're going to have honest conversation about these things. Because I actually believe that there are roles that need to kind of be established where it works for us. We have to think about not what works for other people who have had 400 and 500 years of an advantage. We have to think about what works for us. There's a lot of men who are unemployed or underemployed, and they can be engaged in that household in a different way. I'm talking about changing diapers. I'm talking about doing dishes. I mean, you know, if you're home, I think we have to get really smart about what's happening. A lot of women are given access because they're a double minority. They're female, they're black, and they're given access to jobs, opportunities, and stuff that black men, quite frankly, are not given. You just look at the data and talk about how many men make six figures. The average median income for black men are only $39,000 a year. That's not me. Just look it up. So in that matrix, I'm saying, wait a minute. What it really has to happen is we have to look at modeling behavior, like doing so. And Dr. Ron, you brought this up about how a lot of men don't do things because women say, no, that's get your hand off the diapers. This is what I'm doing. This is my job, as opposed to, I think, providing a lot of skills that's going to be useful not only for the family, but the community. I always said that we don't have a black community. I know everybody's going to write. I'll keep saying it. I don't care. You can keep on writing. We have places where black people live, but we don't have communities. Suggest you control. We don't control the police. We don't control who picks up our garbage. We don't control our educational system. We can't feed our people. We don't have banking institutions where we can go and say, hey, I got a great idea. Let's invest in this sister. We don't run our politicians. Our politicians come into our community, meaning that I could say, Lakota, wow, you are really dynamic. You really understand the people. Let's put all of our money together and resources and reach and influence and make sure that Lakota, but I don't want to run. No, you're running because you get it. And we want you in this seat because we know that you will actually advocate for fathers, or you'll advocate for this kind of thing. It doesn't happen like that in our community. All of a sudden, there's these people that pop up that come up and say, hey, I got to do a study to find out in the community. If you're black and you're telling me that you got to do a study about the community you're supposed to come from, you don't get my vote. You should know what is going on in our community. You should know the pain. You should know the challenges. You should know the education system is trash. Don't tell me you want to spend time and money on doing some research so your buddies can get paid instead of fixing the problem. Look, this is a really, really good conversation. There's been a lot of comments. I think that we're losing. But Kathleen said, this brings me back to a video by Dr. Umar Johnson. The focus has shifted from what's necessary to what is most popular, from what is necessary to bring into consciousness correction, from what's most necessary to do what is most popular. Okay. Lakota says, thanks, Jackie. That's Jackie's comment about she knows what she's talking about. Brenda says, yes, Ron, preach. I think that's toxic to masculinity. Triple access, singles mother, black, brown, and single. I want to shout out Kelynne Oristel for joining us. And Lakota for president. All right. So let me I think she's well on her way.
Here we get back to what we've been kind of, I would say if we had a running theme for the show today, it's called conspiracy. Mm-hmm. And again, I've been looking at this data. You brought it up very clear that, and people get very offended if you say this because they think especially black women see it as a slight against them, to say, oh well, the power structure gave you a job. Not that you weren't qualified. Yes, you are qualified. You have the ability, but I want you to be more mindful and be mindful and think about what happens when that happens. They give you the job to sit right next to them. They don't give that woman the job because this is how they continue to keep their power and control over the whole situation.
The whole family.
Giving you the job, a black woman. Yes, you can making the money. Now you can take care of everything in your house. You can take all. You don't need a man.
I don't need no man.
You don't need anything because you have it, all the finances and all that, and you begin to believe that at the same time not giving his own woman the job next to him. Because why not give my woman the same job right next to me to make the more money? Because then she would be close to me and I won't have power over him. I don't have any power over her. So I want to make sure she can't get that job. But I get to the black woman because that's on they're good. And at the same time, you get a double, you get two birds with one stone. You knock their men completely out of the picture.
Right.
At the same time, sustaining my control of the whole society, because there is no threat, as we talked about, if the black man doesn't come close to me, there's no threat at all, because I have my own woman that I control, and you can believe, no.
Chuck D from Public Enemy said you have the hierarchy of white man, and then there's the white woman, and then there is the white gay man, and then there is the black woman, and then there is the black gay man, and then at the bottom is the black man. It sounds simple, but I was like, and you're absolutely right. They use economics as a way to control the family dynamic, because if you destroy the family dynamic, you will ensure that there will never, ever be a black community. This is why the Black Panther Party was just destroyed. You had black people feeding black people. You had black people educating black people. They said, oh no, that was the big threat. More than the gun stuff. We had access. It was the education, and they're feeding their people and providing medicine for their people. They understood community that we've gotten away from, that we have to bring back. We have to say, later for your poverty programs, we're going to do this program in this way. If you're going to give us money, it's going to be under these conditions. We can no longer say diversity. We need things to help black people. We can't no longer in this space of, lightweight, it will give you the funding if you include, the alphabets, you include the women and all this other kind of stuff. That does not work for us. We have to understand that what we are up against is systemic, and whether it's here in New York City, the Bronx, or in Haiti, they are doing this and playing the same game. And then they want to come in like they're the hero and they're the villain. Oh, you want our help now? After they destroyed it. I mean, you got to see this Netflix. I recommend everybody, although, they omit America's participation all the way from World War II to even now. It's just good to see how the tyrants are kind of propped up and supported in a lot of ways and forgiven, and people look away because it's not convenient to look at some of these things. But it's a great Netflix series. Want to read a couple more comments. It says, Lulu has Daddy Jeopardy. Who wants to play? Oh, wow. We're going to lighten up the mode in a minute. LOL. That's why I am screens off. LOL. And then Kelynne said, but they got hold of the one brother. Question: how does the man feel when the woman makes the big figures so much? That's going to be our next show, because that's a big argument, because I know we're going to be arguing up in this way.
But really quick, Tyler, he wouldn't feel anyway if it wasn't set in the way it was set up,
right?
Because any husband, real husband, who is of a family, doesn't care if his wife makes more money, because guess what? That money is all coming to the house. But if it's not that situation, you care about what somebody else makes. When you're talking about this community,
but it don't all come to the house. But in most situations, Ron, it's her money.
Okay, so Tylon, listen, because you made me think about this. You making me go to a place, and I just before we start the game, I want to I really do want to get people's opinion about this, because you brought up something, and so now you brought it up, and now I have to go there about something I commented on this morning, and I normally don't like to comment on things, but it makes me have to comment that when I see certain things. So this is the statement. I rented a house for 5 years with my girlfriend, only to find out she is the owner.
Wait. Well, I don't mean to laugh. This is like a Twilight Zone. He's been renting from her.
No, I rented. They was together.
Right.
I rented a house for 5 years with my girlfriend, so they was together, only to find out that she was the owner. So we went to go get a house that they was going to rent together, and she's the listen. Listen. And I wrote into that group and said, "You mean to tell me that if this was reversed and that man did that, do you know what you'd be saying? How he's such a liar,
right?
He's manipulating, he's abusive. How would he? How could he ever do something like that all this time?" And I look at it and say, this is what we have to start working on, because we have to recognize, if we don't recognize double standards that are continuing to happen within us and in our community, we're never going to be able to treat each other like humans, because everybody's going to want to get one back or one back for.
Right.
And
right.
That's a perfect example of that, you know.
No, that's very powerful. I'm glad you brought that up, because, you know, because more than the fact that she did that, I think what you alluded to was the support. Like, I bet you, I don't even have to look at the comments, and I can see people say, "Yeah, that's right, girl. That's it. Yeah, that's right. She did it right." You know, a big thumbs up for the way that she did it. And you're right that if the male did the same thing or something similar, vilify. He's not a real man. He's a punk. You know, who does that? You got to take. You know what I'm saying? So I think that this is a very, very important conversation to have, because I can see where the money
it comes right down to getting back to stop with this. If you want to be an independent person, just be independent. Right. But when you decide that you're going to be a family, you're going to have kids, you got to, even if you're not married and y'all just had this kid, you got to still try to be a family. Right. You might not like each other, you might not tolerate each other, but still be a family, because guess what? In our real families, I don't talk to my sister, but we still a family. If she say, "Ron, I need a ticket to go somewhere, I ain't got the money," I still give it to her. Right. We don't talk, we got it, but we got to continue to try to keep our family unit together. And that's one of the things that's keep getting torn apart. And that's what's killing us. And
it's intentional. It's deliberate. They understand the economics. Because I look at the data all the time, and I understand the game. It's like, you know, if we can control the woman and do it economically. I mean, you all know the song "Ain't Nothing Going On with the Rent." I could do all bad by myself. I mean, the songs that just came out, you know, I don't scrub, and I mean, and I'm just saying this, remember, because it's like in my conscience, but it's in the collective conscience. Janet Jackson, Mary J. Blige, all these songs that seem to suggest and really reinforce probably one of the most dangerous and insidious ideas, that men equal money. So if he's not earning more, he's not, it was this guy, Ron, help me out here. The guy that he talks about, what do you call it? High value.
Oh, Kevin Samuels.
The
world's renowned Kevin Samuels.
Yeah. Okay. Now, women go on his show because they're seeking high value men. That, if you just think about the show, just think about how they come in the gate. To me, once you go on the show, you're done, because you're coming in with saying you're looking for someone who is making nothing about his character, nothing about his position, nothing about how brilliant, nothing how he loves his community, how he is with his children, how he is with his mama, who loves him, what he's been. It's just the six figures, the focus. That's scary, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I want to get the ladies' thoughts on
that. Not
this.
Scary. What the problem I have with that is that, again, you equate someone having value based on them having money. Plantation owners had money. Did they have values? I think not. So this idea that we equate money to having something is a problem that we have in the society. But it's very hard to dispel when you live in a capitalistic society that everything is based on capitalism. So I was in one of the rooms and they were saying, "How are you a high value man?" And I went into there, and I wanted to get judged and see if I was a high value man when they, on Clubhouse. I went into the room to see if I was a high value man, and I got a pass because I got to listen. Let me tell you, I got a pass. I only got a pass because I had education. That accepted because I told him I ain't had no money because I don't got no money, but I got education, and I got one thing even better. I have the resources of a community because I do for the community, so the community will do back for me. Not that I have money. And so they say, oh, you get a pass, but you get this and that. But a guy came on there and said he made $500,000. I was like, well, where you making $500,000 at a year? I just listening to the guys that come on there. I got 100. I make this. I was just thinking, well, dude, Clubhouse has all the millionaire black men. The women need to go there and look for them because that's where they at. Because all the regular guys I know making that between that $40,000 and $70,000 a year. Yeah, average worker, if they are regular everyday person, not an entertainer, not an athlete, not a venture capitalist person, just regular everyday people who have time to really spend with their children.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised the national median income for black men, where it was 39,000, and in some places the highest it went is 42. And I'm like, wow, if they have to pay child support, if they get sick, if there's just one little, I gotcha happen, one little landmines of life, you ain't making it, and that's the majority. So what do we do with this cluster of men?
We don't know. I think about, you think of the tech world and what people make and how much money they make. And what you find out is that that a lot of those jobs are not telling people what they, what everyone else make because they're private industries. Right. And you come into a job and you young and you came from building yourself up and you think getting $100,000 is the lottery. Yeah. And the same dude who is inadequate, incompetent, comes in the job and gets triple of what you get. He gets $300,000 as a start and gets stock into the business. You don't know that because we haven't been told that that's what we should ask for. And we're the ones coming up with the great ideas. And it's just this education that we don't have as black people sometimes, because that's all part of, again, the narrative. Keep them away from the financial. And then even when we do get it, they give us these false financials, things that's important. Not the things that they're important for them in their community. They tell us other things are important for us in our community. That's what we need to go and purchase.
Wow. Can we talk about that? Can that be the conversation next week, ladies, gentlemen?
I would think that I feel like the question that Kay brings up is really, really important because there's so many ways that you can look. There's so many angles that you can look through it. And I think next week would really be like the perfect opportunity and the time to be able to really delve into it because it's for real. You have women whom and unapologetically so are making six figures. They work hard for them making six figures. But I guess the challenge is when you're with an individual who is not making that amount of money, how does that construct look?
Right. And tools. What I'm going to try to have is tools for people to get along, because I hear that, I was working with this guy, and I was making, I make six figures, but Tylon, but he was intimidated, and I'm like, let me help you guys out, because all you need, and this is what we've gotten from, all you need is, love, and I hate, to sound mystical, shooby dooby, but let's just put it in these terms. If there's a will, if there's a real willing, you have that intention of building and coming together and creating family, those really shouldn't be issues. But
and if it is an issue, then it has nothing to do with the person's salary. It has something to do with that individual.
That's my point. That's exactly my point. Like if you have all that other stuff taken care of, you can find a way. That's the Jeopardy music. Is Lulu ready? Is it time for us to do this Jeopardy thing?